Right.
All
Welcome
right.
back.
So many more conversations that we have coming up. Of course, there's been quite a bit of agitation on the labor front.
Yes.
Of course, one of the conversations that we've been having is the issue of unemployment and all of that, looking at people trying to look at the desperation of people trying to get into the security services and all of that. But of course, there's also unrest on the labor front.
Yes, there is. So these are people who are employed or who are service providers, but they're agitating because their conditions of service, according to them, are not being met.
Yeah.
They've been in back and forth with government, lots of labor discussions, but not to their satisfaction. So we have a situation where the Health Services Workers Union has decided to go on strike. Now, this is anyone who is non-medical staff, should we say, at our healthcare facilities. So everyone from cashiers to janitors to ambulance drivers, they've laid down their tools. They say they are not going back to work until their demands are met. So we'll be talking about that. And then private health facilities are saying that they're also going to boycott NHIA services because of non-payments. There's a lot of stuff going on in the health service sector. That's what we're looking at.
There's actually a story here we have on the citynewsroom.com. I'm going to read that quickly for us to sort of set the tone for the conversation that we're going to have. A meeting between the Employment and Labor Ministry and the Health Services Workers Union on Tuesday, October 26th, 2021, ended inconclusively. The meeting was to enable members of the union, the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, the Health Ministry, as well as the Controller and Accountant General's Department to address concerns raised by the workers. The workers on Tuesday began across the country industrial action in protest of unfavorable working conditions, leaving many patients stranded at public health facilities. Speaking to City News, the Deputy Labour Relations Minister, Bright Rekubrobe, said though the meeting was inconclusive, most of the concerns members of the unions raised were addressed. He added that he was hopeful that members of the union will soon go back to work. Now, something, and I'm going to quote, something triggered something, and that's why they embarked on this action. So we met them and deliberated, and I think each side is happy. And by the rules of engagement, they need to go back to their National Executive Council. Once everything is settled, they will resume work in a couple of days and call off the strike. Meanwhile, the leaders of the Health Services Workers Union said they will engage their members before a decision is made. The General Secretary of the Health Services Workers Union, Franklin Owusu Ansa, said in a City News interview, insisted that their strike is still in force until negotiations are finalized. So this is different speak. It's not conclusive, and we want finality on our concerns, but nonetheless, we are going back to our constituents to tell them what has transpired. But that's all I can say. But all I can say is that we have not concluded yet. Right, so this is what they've given to us.
It's so unfortunate because, the question that always pops up when these issues occur is what happens, you want to go on strike. You have genuine concerns. Your health service workers, which means your absence affects so many people who desperately need medical care. On the flip side, though, government, are you going to pay the people so they'll go back to work and help people who need their services? It's this whole, two sides of a coin. Okay, but who's really in the wrong? Can't we come to a compromise so the system can still work? And people point, the finger of blame here and there, but it's really who's to blame? And what?
Well, we're running a system that we have to ask ourselves very honest questions. Do we have the capacity to pay at a certain level? Right? It's easy to say, pay the people what they want, but can you sustain it?
Can we sustain it?
Do you see?
Meanwhile, we need their services too. Look, there was one gentleman, if I don't know if we'll see that clip or not, he said he's been working in the system for 30 years, and his salary isn't even up to 1,500 cedis.
Yeah.
30 years of service in our healthcare system.
But what is he doing?
Does that matter?
Doesn't it?
30 years?
Doesn't it? It depends
For
where you
30
started.
years of service.
It depends where you started. No, it depends on where you started, and it depends on what you're doing.
For me,
Kokwe,
I think that's inadequate.
Kokwe, we all know that money is a reward for solving a problem.
It's a reward for work.
What problem are you solving?
Well, now we see the use of the people, because them being on strike is affecting patients.
So yes, I mean, I agree that people need to earn better, right? But the question is, your job. Can 1 million people not do your job? If they can, then your job doesn't.
Well, if they can, then all of those people should be replaced.
No, but you see, this is why jobs have different pay structures for them, right? You can fuss all you want, but there are certain jobs that will never get 5,000 cedis a month.
Perhaps.
Even after 50 years.
Perhaps. But these are people who aren't earning anything close to that. And they're agitating for better conditions of service, I suppose.
Anyway, we have a report on that,
We
right?
do. We have something for you to watch, for those of you watching. Let's take a look at this and we'll come back and chat some more.
Wearing red armbands, the union members made up of security guards, cleaners, kitchen staff, record keepers, among others, gathered at the Northern Regional Health Directorate to declare their support for the strike expected to commence on Tuesday. The union is demanding, among other things, risk, clothing and continuous professional development allowances.
The negotiations for Health Service Workers Union members has been long overdue. After the other sister unions, their conditions of service has been reviewed either twice or once in the year 2019 and also the year 2020. Are we not working in the same facilities? We are we not doing the same work? We are. Public, this is what we want you to know. We don't want to do anything against public, but we want to ask for our fair share of the conditions. The dragging of feet and lackadaisical attitude and nature to which the government handles the issues of Health Service Workers Union can no longer be tolerated. Not at all. We can no longer tolerate.
Is the employer fair to us?
No.
Is the employer fair to us?
No.
What have we done wrong?
Nothing.
What have we done wrong? Nothing. Well, we are telling our employers that if they think our work is not important, then they should let all of us go home. Because we know that, and every employer places value on his employee.
The strike will mean that kitchen services, cleaning, issuance of hospital cards, and some other services will not be available for clients to allow the hospital to function fully.
Kitchen staff on strike, janitorial staff,
Issuance
issuance of cards, even
card.
checking you in, registration, all on suspension because of this. All right, let's welcome our colleague, Kojo Akoto Boateng, who's here to join the discussion. Hi, Kojo.
Hello, Kokwe. How are you?
I'm well. Good to see you.
We miss you.
I miss you too, actually.
No, you miss her
On
where?
radio.
You miss her? No, I mean how? He's here, but he says he's missing you somewhere else.
On radio.
Okay.
Yes. Don't worry, I'll see you on Monday.
How
God
are
willing.
you?
Oh, it is. I mean, just say, I've done my high school school prefect's uniform.
Okay, that's it, huh?
Yeah.
Our uniform was the jollof colored uniform.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey,
You don't want to put a tie on jollof.
No, you don't. You want to eat
Just
it.
leave it, yeah.
That's good. All right, Kojo. So here we are again, yet another industrial action taking place. This time, Health Services Workers Union saying they're not being valued, government isn't being fair to them, their conditions of service are not being met. Now, we heard from the Deputy Minister of Employment and Labor Relations. He says, in his estimation, most of their grievances are being addressed. There's just one or two little things that need to be sorted out. Okay. What really are they asking for that has instigated this?
I think they're asking for fair treatment and better conditions of service. Like you said, somebody said he had worked for 30 years. He still doesn't take as much as 1,500 cedis. Right, now, assuming you look at the person's cost of living, wife, children, look, let's even eliminate those. If he even is alone, rent, transportation, all those things, you need to factor some of those things in. I think that usually when we look at rewarding or remunerating workers, like Kweku was making an argument which I really disagree with, that what's their qualification and what do they do? Let's do this analogy, and I'll always come from my sustainability science background, right? Now, we are in an ecosystem. Vultures that we don't respect. The role of vultures is to clean up the environment such that any rotten organic material would not breed pathogens which will cause diseases. So if you have enough vultures and they are clearing up the system, you won't have carcasses lying around which will result in communicable diseases. We've had COVID-19, which has shut down the world. So every element in a system does some work. Cleanliness. The hospital environment is one of the most dangerous when it comes to cleaning and keeping sanitation in check. Now, if you assume somebody has maybe a GSS certificate or senior, or even has not gone to school, based on that, they don't have the qualification, but they've worked in the system and gained experience to deliver the service. We should look at cost of living and all those things, and sometimes adjust people's rewards so that they can also breathe. Because the cleaner is actually at risk of contracting all sorts of diseases. They are cleaning wards, they are cleaning toilets, they are cleaning here, they are cleaning there.
They're essential.
You think about that. So I don't think there is any unit within any system which is not necessary. There will be disparities in payments and conditions of service and everything, but it gets to a point where you have to review the bottom, the minimum reward, such that it should be able to let people live, be sane, and come back to work the following day to deliver services. If you look at caterers in the hospitals, if you are going to recover, nutrition is one of the things. So the people who are cooking so that we get the right nutrition too, if we are not taking good care of them, then because the doctors can do all the work. If the cleaners mess up and there's contamination and everything, the doctor's work is made null and void. Same for the cleaners, same for the lab technician, same for this, same for that. So we need to look at that. The problem in the health sector, for example, when it comes to physician assistants and all these people, we've had this conversation before. Sometimes they all feel that the doctors are over-prioritized over them, so they don't get what is due them. So everybody also aspires to be a doctor. But in any development or in any structure, we cannot not go and sit at the top. Somebody must be president, somebody must be vice, somebody must be chief of staff, somebody, so that there is distribution of roles for the whole system to work. So I think that the Ministry of Labour, the Ghana Health Service, and the Ministry of Health, they need to sit down and review some of these things. They need to talk. I don't think that usually these institutions talk, especially when it comes to Health Service Workers Union. They are not seen as an integral component in the thing. So the priority we give to other people, we do not give to them. They need to sit down with them and talk. We have about 28,000 people. There's the issue of money. If everybody's rewards is even going to be increased by 100 cedis a month, right? That's 2.8 million Ghana cedis in a year. Once we talk, we find their pain points. We also try to find the resources to meet their needs.
So we have the General Secretary of the Health Services Workers Union and is speaking here. Let's take a look at that. We'll come back and then we'll continue the conversation.
The continuous disregard by the government team to respond to our simple request has pushed us to the wall and this far. Now to our cherished members who have been patient enough to work up to now, we salute you. Today, 25th October 2021, must be the last day that you will go to work as you have demanded. From tomorrow, 26th October 2021, please stay at home till you hear from your leaders.
All right.
All right, yeah.
So that
So
was
we actually have Franklin Owusu answer on the line, and I wanted to speak with him. Good morning, Franklin.
Good morning.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, cherished listeners.
All right. So let's just find out from you. Bring us up to speed well, as far as the negotiations are concerned. What are you asking for specifically?
Thank you, my brother. You know, the principles of negotiating, when you are at a negotiating table, whatever you table doesn't mean you are going to get everything. And so when you begin to go on there and tell everybody all that you are demanding, if you are not able to get it, then it looks as if you didn't get anything. And for that matter, with the kind of thing, I just don't want to be mentioning item by item, only what we are demanding. We know at the negotiating table, it is a win-win approach. It is give and take. If we put to the table, we go talk, whatever comes out, sign an agreement. But that one, we can make it public and tell everybody what we tabled and what we have received. We don't want any member to come somewhere and say that, yes, we're looking for that, but for that matter, but if we don't get that particular thing, we are not going back to the workplace.
Yeah.
We understand the rules of negotiation and we want to abide by it. Thank you.
Okay, so Bride Reku says that as far as he's concerned, we've met most of your concerns and they are expecting that you should be going back to work soon. What's your position?
Well, I don't speak for myself. I am a chief person, and for that matter, I speak the mind of the 40,000 employees who fall under the Health Services Workers Union. And for that matter, it is a simple thing. Our demands are not many. What is outstanding is also not much. All that we are saying is government should call us back to the negotiating table. And we want to believe it is something that can be concluded in hours, not weeks. And for that matter, we will be able to reach agreement in good faith.
Okay. Franklin, all right, so you're hoping that this will find a speedy conclusion and resolution, but what if for some reason it doesn't? How long are you prepared to stay on strike, considering the fact that many patients desperately need your services? And yes, I think people will acknowledge the importance of the health services workers and the fact that you are a necessary part of the system. But we do want to find out, and people want to know, how long could this realistically or feasibly continue?
Immediately, this strike action started yesterday. We were called by the Ministry of Employment and Labour Relations to sit and talk, which we were glad we went. And it is our hope that as they called us yesterday, it's just that the items we were talking about we couldn't conclude. We want to believe that today, tomorrow, we will reach a conclusion and we will go back to our workplaces.
In the case where there is no agreement, there is no conclusion on the matters that are important to you, as Kokui said, can we see this going into next week, into next month?
I don't want to believe so. The other side of the party knows how serious the situation is.
Yeah.
And for that matter, we want to believe that if nobody will hold anybody to ransom, and when we get to the table, it will be good faith negotiation. We don't anticipate this to take for long.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Franklin. Thank you for speaking to us on Breakfast
Thank you,
Daily.
my brother.
All right. Thank you. Kojo, so he says that he's not anticipating it dragging out long because their role is so important within the network, within the system, that, you know, not quoting his words, but basically, it's going to bite soon. So they're going to have to react quickly to them so that they can go back to work. I'm also wondering, you know, government. I mean, if the As they say, if the dare is not there, how are we going to deal with the situation?
If the dare is not there, if the money is not there,
Yeah.
I think it's also just fair that sometimes we break down the issues and explain our situation as a country to all parties and commit to rectifying the situation once things get better. For example, I was just doing the back of the envelope calculation. They are about 28,000.
Yeah.
If we are to give them an increase, if we are to spend an extra 100 cedis per person a month on them, that's 2.8 million a month.
Yeah.
For the year, that's over 30 million.
Yeah.
So the question is, do we have 30 million extra to spend on Health Service Workers Union? Now the other question is, the work they do, is it worth the 30 million? The answer is yes.
Yes.
And the third question is, how do we find the money? If we cannot find the money, what can we do? Right? Sometimes you sit with people, and I always say this, Ghanaians are reasonable people. When you have to negotiate, you just go in there and be honest, and then commit to doing something. And whilst you tell them to tighten their belts, they should also see you do something similar.
Yeah.
They shouldn't see you preach A and be doing B.
Yeah.
That's where usually the problem is.
Yeah.
People in government, politicians will tell you times are not good. We cannot do A, B, C, D
Yet
for you.
Sometimes.
Yet we see them spending on certain things we think are wants, not needs of the country. So whilst we look, lecturers went on strike this semester. They were on strike, and they threatened another one because their needs were not being met.
Yeah.
Different groups. Let's explain to them our situation. Let's find the resources to deal with the problems we have, and let's commit to work together with these teams.
Yeah.
I think these three things are very fundamental. Well, and whilst we do that, we should not be seen throwing money at unnecessary things.
Yeah.
We should not be seen doing that.
What's the brofu for that? Profligate expenditure.
Charlie.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of our situation and lack of funds to pay private healthcare facilities, so they are boycotting the NHIA. They are saying that they're not being paid for services rendered under that umbrella. So do we have a healthcare services cash flow problem? It looks as though we do. But really, how far can we stretch? Now, you remember when the health minister was vetted again, and he said that currently the way we are running, our health insurance scheme is unsustainable. We just can't afford it. Hence the increase that we saw in our NHIA levy. Kojo, how can we rectify this, really, realistically?
It's a big problem if you look at the healthcare space. We introduced health insurance, and we realized that there were challenges with funding health insurance, with the levy and everything, and the fund was being depleted faster than we were replenishing it. And then we tried capitation in Ashanti region. We did a pilot of capitation in Ashanti. If I remember very well, 2010, 2011, 2012-ish, it was introduced in the Ashanti region, where costs will be capped at a certain point. So for malaria, it's capped here, this is capped here. Okay. Capitation was trialed in the Ashanti region. We could not, beyond the trial, we could not replicate across the country. And there's been a lot of things said about the health insurance. The former CEO of the National Health Insurance Authority, Nathaniel Otu, and the current CEO, Gianni Selby, I think they wrote a paper with some other health economists of the World Bank, and I read bits and pieces of it back then. And basically, from the analysis of the health insurance scheme, if we don't really sit down and look at ways of making it better, it's going to collapse. But I see an opportunity to get the health insurance scheme do better. For example, the digitization of the economy is going to ensure that we widen the tax net so that a lot of people will pay a lot more direct taxes and related matters, which may increase the amount of funds that go in. Number two, we also need to look at efficiency of the system and also remove corruption within the system. There is still an element of corruption. There is still elements of inefficiency in the system that increases the burden on the health insurance authority. So all those things are very important in delivering healthcare. And for me, beyond the National Health Insurance Scheme, we need to have a way of encouraging citizens and also creating a system where we reduce the incidence of people falling sick and falling ill and needing healthcare services.
Yeah.
For example, back then, malaria was number 1. We've eliminated malaria somehow from the number 1 position. But now all sorts of cardiovascular diseases are taking over. When you look at the Ghana Health Service facts and figures, over the past 5 to 10 years, cardiovascular diseases seem to be rising. And now, if you check top 3, they are there. You look at road accidents or road crashes, they're actually number 1. If you look at the number of people who die and get injured, it's also there. And it also puts a burden on. So we need to look at the preventative actions and strategies. How can we make the Ghanaian healthier? Good food, healthier environment, parks and spaces for them to exercise and reduce the threats. You see, those are if you go everywhere now, you go to Norway, Finland, Sweden, all those Scandinavian countries, they are spending more on prevention than cure. Right? If you go to even the UK, we are now seeing investments in public parks and other recreational facilities to make people live better. In Ghana, you are spending 2 hours in the morning or 3 hours in the morning in traffic. In the evening, the same thing, especially those in the urban areas. They all have impacts on our lives. So if you want to reduce the burden on the National Health Insurance Authority, like the last time we did the analogy with education, there are certain things which are putting pressures on the system, directly and indirectly. We need to be able to map out all those things and eliminate them. Look, by the time I'm 60, I'm not sure I'll be as healthy as my grandfather when he was 60. Because the fumes I'm inhaling, the 5-6 hours I spend in traffic every day, I don't get to walk much. I don't get to eat fresh produce much unless I grow them myself. So all those things are factors. So let's look at the nutrition of the country. We are eating a lot of fast food these days. A lot of monosodium glutamate are entering our system. So diabetes and all those things. And it's more expensive to treat some of these things. So the conversation about funding the Health Insurance Authority and the Health Insurance Scheme is there. But the larger conversation for me going forward is how to reduce the burden
on the
system, such that we will get to a point where there could even be more funds in the system that we can borrow from the system to invest in other areas.
All right, we'll take a quick break and we'll come back and chat some more about other issues making news headlines. This is Breakfast Daily on City TV. Stay tuned.